where you're at?
Yeah, do you know what happens though? Probably every 5 days there's a massive thunderstorm, and that's actually a lot of fun.
Hmm.
First of all, it's dramatic, and second of all, it really clears the heat, just temporarily, you know. So
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there's been some storms here as well, and it's not like mega downpour, but it just take the edge off the heat, which is really needed.
mm.
So yeah, it's a decent combo. So yeah, please, you're enjoying France, mate. Good to know. Good to know. Anywho, let's get on with the show. Welcome everybody. It's Brainfood live on air, bringing it to you every Friday, no fail, no matter where we are. And today is the inaugural Hamburg version of Brainfood Live. I'm broadcasting this live from a city I've never been to before, but I arrived in Hamburg earlier today, and I'm looking forward to spending the weekend here. Apparently, here's a factoid for you: Hamburg has more canals than Venice and Amsterdam combined.
Wow.
So it is a very seaborne, or should we say, waterborne type of city, which befits a city that was once one of the major ports in Europe, of course. So very much looking forward to checking out the rest of the city, and I'm going to be meeting with a few brain fooders later on tonight for a few drinks after this show. Anyway, listen, everybody. Let's do a quick some sound checks as we always do. Let me know in the chat whether you can hear me okay. I have got my travel mic on, as you can see, so hopefully you can hear the audio fine. I think Adam's got a decent mic on as well, so let me know in the chat whether that's okay. We should be blasting this out on a number of live streams as well. So if you're watching this on LinkedIn, do let me know whether the audio and visual is okay, and we should be ready to go. Let me just quick check on LinkedIn actually, because I have to do this on my phone because, of course, there's no multi-screen action here. Brainfood Live is very much a lo-fi show. Yeah, we are on LinkedIn as well, so that's good. Okay, fantastic. Well, listen, let's get on with the show. As usual, we need to thank our sponsors before we go any much further forward. And today, I think this is actually the first time this year that HackerJob have sponsored this episode. So delighted to bring these guys on the show. One of the UK success stories to date when it comes to recruitment technology. Always a huge presence in the industry, always a huge presence on RecFest. You see their event, sort of their tent in the big event a couple of weeks ago is absolutely fantastic. So wonderful to see their contributions to the richness of the community. I'll tell you more about them, but there's no point because we can bring on one of the heroes of HackerJob, and they can tell us all about it themselves. So this is Sam Bertu, who not only is going to give us a sponsor message, but he's also going to fuel a lot of our conversation today with a lot of proprietary data from the HackerJob platform.
Wrong camera.
Yeah, half ahead of Sam. But that's okay. It's probably your better half, Sam. You know, the less face we see, the better, I think. Oh, there he is. What a good-looking lad. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, very good. Very good. Good to see you again. Nice to see you, Adam. Thanks for having me. Second time this year as well.
No worries. You're always welcome, Sam. Your chat is always above average, mate. Do you know what I mean? So wonderful
Solid
to have
7.
you on. That's it. 6.5. Tries hard. But listen, Sam, we're going to bring you back to talk about the data. But whilst you're here and on screen, now is the time to tell the audience, who is HackerJob? What do you do? Who should care about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a private marketplace at its core. So essentially, we flip the model and allow employers to connect with candidates rather than candidates to apply for employers. Largest technical audience in the UK, fastest growing in the US. We've got a remote presence of kind of 10% of our audience. And then we have some borderless products as well. So brand by HackerJob. And newly released this week is our new DE&I suite. Literally went live yesterday. We've got the full public launch coming afterwards. But I will drop the link into the chat. Hopefully that's all made it there. As I did, I saw Claire Bush say tuneful Sam. Maybe that's a LinkedIn tick you can give me on that. I'm not sure what that's related to. Maybe I'll sing a tune at the end of this. But that's, the rundown of HackerJob top to bottom. And as I said, recently released this DE&I module, multifaceted tool, empowering that insights. And I think the advantage that we have, reverse marketplace, we understand why candidates don't want to apply for you. And then we can break that down by gender, ethnicity, neurodiversity, sexual orientation, support needed, like lots of different demographic groups, and kind of power your recruitment funnel, not just on Hacker Jobs. So yeah, really, really interesting move from us.
That's actually sounds very useful, because a lot of companies are going blind in terms of their brand perception to different communities and different demographics. So if you're able to actually provide that information to them, if they care about it, they can take actions to ameliorate that. So yeah, absolutely, sounds fantastic. So Sam, listen, thanks a lot for that message. We're going to bring you back towards the end of the show, and we're going to talk about the metrics, because we do want to talk about the tech hiring landscape. And HackerJob, of course, are one of those platforms that do have a very good window as to what's going on in terms of tech candidate behavior and also tech employer behavior. So we want to really dig into that as we go forward. So Sam, wonderful to see you, mate. We're going to hang around. We'll bring you back in a sec, okay?
Yeah, we'll do. Looking forward to the content. See you soon.
Cool. Remove Sam from the chat. It's going to be very interesting. I didn't realize they actually had that module, but I really like that kind of additional service that you might be able to provide, because companies can only embrace that type of availability of intelligence. Anyway, let's review the newsletter real quick. Adam, did you read it last week? If you did, what was interesting, mate?
Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to point out was Josh Berson's white paper. I don't know what you call it. Information on artificial intelligence and the use of artificial intelligence in HR technology products. I thought it was very interesting the way that he segmented the three, into three different sort of levels of AI, if you like. The first one he described as emerging AI, which is really simple artificial intelligence that can be used for analytics and data management, allowing companies to generate simple recommendations like pay adjustments and things like that. He describes that as bolt-on AI features, which don't really change the underlying architecture. I'm not entirely sure I'd describe that as emerging AI, because emerging AI to me sounds like something that's got massive potential and still isn't yet, is just something that we're starting to discover. I think that's not really the description I'd give it, but what he means is really very simple elements of artificial intelligence, things that have been around for a long time. And then the second one that he talks about is what he's calling first generation AI. So it's AI that's built in his words, and he describes that as things like machine learning, predictive analytics, candidate and employee matching. And then he talks about second generation AI, and that's products which are built on AI from the ground up, data-centric solutions where they've maybe defined their entire product around the data that they are managing and analyzing. And he's talking about things like neural networks, deep learning, large language models. And he's referenced a few companies in HR tech that would fit into that. One of the quotes that really stuck out to me was second generation systems can amass hundreds of millions or billions of employee profiles. And I don't think there's any products out there that have got billions of employee profiles, but of course they could have. I mean, you could put billions of people onto a database, but I thought it was a interesting semi-technical description of where we are today. So I don't think a Luddite's going to be able to read it and follow it. But I think if you already know a bit about artificial intelligence, you're going to be able to read that, and you're going to find it interesting. I didn't agree with all of it, but I certainly, found it useful.
Do you know what? I think you're the second person, in fact, the third person that's had very similar commentary to this. So in other words, the reading of it, not entirely on board or aligned with Joshua's view as to how the classification worked, and indeed the types of companies that exist within those classifications. But it's worth the read because at least he's give it a go to try and describe that landscape as it is. And I agree with you. His titling of the categories probably isn't as good as his subheaders of it. So I thought his subheaders was actually much better. And the way he basically described it was, look, you have a bit of software, it may have AI added onto it, which these days might be any kind of software, because there isn't any kind of HR tech that isn't trying to bolt some AI on top of it. That's just a normal thing that all of us are seeing. Then he's talking about AI is built in. So this is not a bolt-on, but actually it's natively baked into what the product is all about. So you might see a few, the matching products and so on have always had something akin to this. And then what he calls the second generation, which I think, maybe better language for recruiter community, is that the latest best thing, so to speak, will be it's AI first. It's basically, it wouldn't have existed at all without the AI. AI is not a component. It's the whole thing, and the technology is being built around the language models. So that's, I think the subheaders are actually superior in terms of its descriptive power compared to the headers. But yeah, that's worth wrestling with. Do read the post. I agree with Adam. It's not necessarily easy reading, but you know what? This is technically complicated, and we recruiters need to start swimming into slightly deeper waters here. We can't sit here and be spoon-fed on it. If you can't understand it, pipe it into ChatGPT and have it dumb it down for you. But go and have a read of this. I think it's quite an important document. Like I say, you can disagree with it after you read it, but go and read it.
Okay. Buffer have produced an update on how does the LinkedIn algorithm work in 2023. The summary is it's about 3 important things: relevance, expertise, and engagement. Relevance being, if you write about how to shear zebras, then people that are in shearing and are in I've got some sort of relationship to zebras will see that content. Expertise. So what's your authority on this subject? If you've never worked in zebra shearing before and you write about zebra shearing, it's not necessarily trusting that you are writing with any kind of authority. And then engagement. Engagement being, have your posts had lots of likes and shares and comments in the past? And if so, then terrific. So those are the 3 things. I went and took a look at my feed, and the previous 20, I looked at the most recent 20 items that were on my feed, and every one of them was either a post from somebody I know, a comment or reaction from somebody I know on the post of somebody else I know, or it was an advert. I didn't see anybody commenting or reacting on any posts by people I didn't know, and I didn't see any posts from people I didn't know. Now, that might be because I've got quite a big network, but it says to me that actually one of the top 3 has got to be the number of connections you've got, or the relevance of the connections you've got, and there's got to be something in there about the volume, because, as I say, I got nothing from anybody that was a second-tier connection. So useful to go and take a look at, and worth studying if content and is part of your way of doing recruitment marketing or doing marketing. If you're a provider of services or products, it's worth staying on top of this, how LinkedIn's operating.
More than worth staying on top of it. There's a story that's going into Brainfood this Sunday about how Cisco had been training all of their employees to be LinkedIn influencers. So that's 84,000 employees have been given training on how to actually amplify the Cisco brand on LinkedIn. And having gone through this exercise, they're reporting things like, on aggregate, they've been able to cut time per hire as an average by about 5 days across the entire piece. So they're saying, you know what, it's a team sport. You can't just have recruiters pinging messages and doing, you know, the branding side. What if you got everyone to do that? And in fact, what if you got, you know, really relevant team colleagues, team members in the function that you're looking to recruit for, actually talking on their LinkedIn about sort of the company that they're currently working for. Super powerful. So I think that actually dovetails very nicely with where we're at with LinkedIn and the changes of the algorithm. What's very interesting, folks, from both Adam's commentary and experimentation there, and also from what we do seem to know, is that LinkedIn's going to figure out whether you are an expert in something based on what you talk about on your LinkedIn profile. So your profile page needs an audit now. If you've changed your direction, you pivoted your view or whatever it is, you need to go back to your LinkedIn profile and start making sure that, okay, if you're going to talk about sheep shearing, as Adam mentioned, and you haven't got that in your profile, you probably need to insert it in. So
I said zebra shearing, but I mean, that's just not a thing. Zebras don't grow long hair.
They don't grow long hair, and I wouldn't try and get a handle on them. They're very vicious creatures, mate.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I don't think anybody's going to survive that. But anyway,
I would do it.
I wouldn't do it. Anyway, we're going to be talking to Andy Foote about this in 2 weeks' time. He's done tons of research on this. Andy, of course, is one of our favorite guests, a LinkedIn expert, and we're going to just give him a one-to-one. So it's just me, Adam, and him. I'm going to talk this through. So make sure you sign up to that and keep abreast of it. I do think that's relevant for everybody. Okay, give us one more, Adam.
Well, two quickly.
Oh,
right. One. Quick. Okay, so one is, because the fourth one could be quick. The third one is McKinsey say that world superstar cities' vibrancy is at risk. I mentioned 2 weeks ago that the population of New York City is down 5% and San Francisco down 6% since the start of the pandemic. And McKinsey's added more information to this. So attendance in offices in metropolitan areas is 30% below pre-pandemic levels. Footfall at stores in metropolitan areas is down 10 to 20%. So there's less people actually going in to go to shops. And demand for office and retail space by 2030 could be as low as 30% less than 2019 levels. So they put some recommendations in there around what cities should do, developing mixed-use neighborhoods, making buildings adaptable. And I'm already seeing evidence of this happening, which is really good, where a company is got, do you remember Bugsy Malone, that movie back in the 80s where
it's all kids, right?
Yeah,
Jodie Foster's a kid, and everyone's like gangster kids, basically.
That's right. And so it's like, you know, wild party, and then the cops walk in, and then all of a sudden they can flip over the bar tables, and it's like, I don't know, a library type of atmosphere or something like that instead. Yeah, well, I'm seeing buildings doing that already, where up until 5 o'clock, or up until 8 a.m. they're available for something, and then between 8 and 5 p.m. they're available for something else, and then at 5 p.m. it's like flips over, and it's a completely different thing again. And I think that's what's got to happen. So yeah, it's a shame, because I really, really love mega cities like New York and London. And I think I was with you a few weeks back, and you know, I commented on it. Feels like there's less people, and I said it could be 25-30% less than what I would have expected pre-pandemic. Glasgow feels like it's about 50% less in the city centre. Seriously. And so, yeah, interesting to follow what's going on in this as well.
It is, and I didn't mention in the commentary, but there's wider implications to this as well. I mean, I think there's certainly good things that can happen from the decline of superstar cities, because it means that obviously we're not just like constantly, you know, pulling in massive amounts of talent and crushing people into small spaces, huge costs in terms of living and all that kind of stuff. All of that's resulting of these gravitational pull of these big cities. I don't think it's a particularly healthy thing to have them. But the reversal of that process is not going to come without some pain, because lots of companies have organized themselves around the idea that's how it's going to be. And there's lots of companies that are invested in commercial real estate, for instance, that suddenly that commercial real estate's actually looking like a really bad bet for them. And that's going to have long-term impact in terms of, how confident a bank's going to be. Are they sitting on an asset book that actually is a loss-making set of liabilities? What does that mean down the track? Lots of things. We definitely need to have mixed use buildings, though. No question about that. You shouldn't be building a skyscraper unless you can convert those into apartments, basically, because you might have to do it. HSBC have given up Canary Wharf, it's sort of Tower 1 or whatever, haven't they? There's not another bank going to take that up.
I don't feel like there's going to be a lot of demand for building skyscrapers for quite some time, to be honest. Unless it's emerging cities like Dubai. London doesn't need any more skyscrapers right now. Neither does New York. Neither does
turn into a hotel. I'm in the Radisson right now. It's 25 stories up, right? So that's the sort of thing that I think you got to convert that office space into. But yeah, there's something needs to happen. All right, give us one more, mate.
Very, very, very finally, I saw a really, really, really brilliant 2-minute interview from Vicky Saunders, who was head of employer branding at some major organizations in the UK. And she's described the difference between employer brand, recruitment marketing, and EVP in a very easy to digest chocolate-based analogy. See what I did there? Easy to digest. And you got to go and look at this. If you want to be able to describe what's the difference between these things, then Vicky's analogy is the best I've ever heard. Very, very simple.
Yeah, and I've just shared the YouTube link into the chat stream there, so please take a look. Vicky had a really good analogy, and as I say, Mars bars are a bonus. Oh, by the way, Steve Jewell, you recruit in the real estate market. You know what? I'd be really interested to know what you're seeing in there, particularly in the commercial real estate sort of sector. If you do any work there, it might be cool to have a show based on this. Okay, let's accelerate into this conversation. Tech hiring landscape. What does it all that look like? You know what? We're going to bring on some of our guests immediately. But before we do that, I actually need the guests to do me a favor because I can't identify you easily from the UI that Crowdcast is giving us. So who do we bring on first? We need to bring on Bharat and we need to bring on Matt Doyle. Can I see them both? Can you both put a chat comment, please, into the chat so I can find you easily? And then I'll invite you both on. Actually, I can see Matt from here. So let's bring him on here. That's great. Where is Bharat? I'm sure he commented somewhere. He did, didn't he? There he is. Bharat.
Commented.
Does he come back?
Right at the bottom.
Yeah, got you. I mean, that's crazy how they screwed this, man. So just explain to people who don't know what I'm talking about. Basically, there's about 100 people watching the show, all of whom could be invited on screen, by the way. However, the only names that are displayed are like 20 names, which seem to be fairly arbitrary as to how they're ordered. Maybe on when they're logged in. And there's no search function. So if you're not randomly in that 20, I won't be able to pull you in. 293, quite right, Nathan. Okay, so I've invited Matt. I think this is him. Yes, it is. Hey, it's Bharat. How are you doing? Bharat and Matt. Okay, wonderful. We've got you both on. Let's go to you first, Bharat. Can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Hey, everyone. My name is Bharat, and I'm a tech recruiter at Meta. I've been with Meta for about 3 years, more than 3 years. And before that, I used to recruit in India. And I've been in the recruiting industry for almost a decade now.
Fantastic. And you are now based in Germany, aren't you, Bharat? Is that right?
Yes. I am based out of Germany, Aachen, Germany.
Amazing. Did I tell you, did I bore you once that I actually lived in Aachen when I was a small boy? I think I did, didn't I? Anyway, great to see you, Bharat. And we've got Matt Doyle here as well. Matt, great to see you. Can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Hey everyone, Matt is my name. I'm the Senior Manager for Technical Recruiting for Tenable in EMEA, so recruiting primarily in Dublin, Paris and Tel Aviv. About 20 years recruiting experience all told for my sins, about half and half agency and in-house. I'm really a financial services agency recruiter who's been masquerading as a tech recruiter for the last 10 years. So there you go.
been faking it so long, Matt, that you know what, you've forgotten who you truly are, which is loving accountants and getting those guys in. But okay, let's get talking with this, guys. Tech hiring landscape. You know, we hear a lot of I think we all ambiently sort of hear the situation. It's not been great year, but from the perspective of companies that have previously hired aggressively for engineers and now perhaps not doing so much. What are you seeing in terms of candidate behavior? Have you detected any changes in terms of applicant flow, for instance? Are developers more keen to get involved in job posts that you've posted? Or is it the case that actually they're feeling fairly relaxed about the situation out there? What are you reading in the market to date in 2023? Let's go to you first, Bharat.
So the good news is a lot of these companies have started hiring, but in very specific niche areas. I've just opened up a bunch of roles, but for specific location. Now, before I talk about the candidate side of the mindset or the response, I just want to bring in a couple of pointers where, from the company side, the first thing is companies now have realized that it is difficult to let go of people in Europe. And that is having a direct impact on where they want to hire and how quickly they want to hire. And the reason for that is a lot of these tech companies, when they announce that they are letting go of people, Europe seemed to be a big problem for them. The November layoff that happened, Netherlands is still not done with that. The April or March layoff that has happened, Germany is still not done with that. France is still not done with that. Spain is still not done with that. What this leads to is a direct impact on two things. One, less remote opportunities, because companies don't want to provide these opportunities where it is difficult for them to let go of people. Second, because the process is still on, expect more people to be in the market very soon. So from that, the response rate of
no, Brad, stop. Because that you've actually introduced a really important point, which is perhaps more important than the question I initially asked you, which is essentially this, folks. A lot of the big tech companies, obviously they're US big tech companies, and they made redundancies, I think, like from a mindset of at-will sort of approach, which is default in the US. And they probably thought, yes, it's going to be a little bit harder in the EU, but they probably didn't think it would be as hard as it has been. Now, what you've mentioned, Bharat, is redundancy procedure started last year in November. It's still not concluded 8 months down the line. Do you know what? What that's going to mean is that US tech companies are not going to put jobs into Europe in the same way as they did before. They're going to think, you know what? It's a headache to put a job into Europe because you might not be able to get rid of it. I'm better off paying extra or whatever it might be to hire the person in the US where it is more higher fire. So I think it's a hugely significant, because let's not forget that US tech companies have actually raised and elevated tech salaries significantly in Europe because they started putting in, again, US kind of compensation level type packages. Not quite the same, but certainly aggressive enough to start elevating the overall landscape here in Europe. So, wow, we're heading for kind of an awakening in the EU, I think. It's going to be very interesting for us to view. Matt, let's talk to you, because you're an Ireland and you do a lot of recruitment in Ireland. And Ireland was one of those places where actually a lot of people were recruited by US tech companies, obviously headquartered there. Bharat, you actually worked in Dublin in Meta, of course. So do you actually get the sense that there's now a fear from these US companies about positioning jobs into Europe and places of this type, given the difficulty of potentially letting people go?
So yes and no. It's a bit of a fence-sitting answer, but I think if these tech companies have good HR and legal advice in country, well, then their current risk situation shouldn't really be a surprise to them. So if a US tech company is sitting there and they're shocked that, oh my God, it takes so long to reduce the force in France or Germany, I kind of call into question where they're getting their legal and HR advice from in the first place. So we do have a presence in France, for instance. We have an engineering hub in Paris, we have an engineering hub in Tel Aviv, and we have an engineering hub in Ireland. And it's different kind of paces to hire in those geos, and it's different pace to reduce in force in those geos as well. So we've seen an uptick in hiring in Ireland, which is one of our 3 hubs, but we're not quite up to hiring speed yet in other hubs in Paris and in Israel. But that's actually more product driven than, say, specific geo or legalities or whatever it is. We have had a small reduction in force over the last few months, nothing to the scale that the likes of Meta and some other companies have had, but we have done, and employees in those geos were affected. But medium to long term, we will go where we can get talent. There is talent in Ireland. There's more talent. I don't know how Bharat feels about it, but if you open a rec today versus a rec 6 months ago, there's more candidates in your recs today. It's as simple as that. And there is the higher quantity of applicants, but there's also a higher quality of applicants.
Can I say, Matt, can you tell us particularly what jobs you're referring to here?
Sure.
Yep.
Software engineers, product engineers. We want back end, front end, full stack staff up to staff level. So we want hands-on software engineers working on public cloud SaaS products. So we're recruiting for as good an engineer as Bharat is for Meta. So.
Yep, excellent. So basically, there is more liquidity in the market. The layoff scenario has actually injected liquidity back in, meaning there's more people available, more people interested. And Bharat, actually, towards the end of your point, you mentioned that we can expect more to happen once these, long-term redundancy sort of scenarios play out, which presumably they're going to have to turn soon. I mean, it's been 6 months plus, right? So at some point, these people will be coming on to the marketplace. Okay, very interesting. Let's talk about sort of the candidate behaviors then. So I'm assuming if you're getting more applicant flow and the quality is high, would it be also fair to say that applicants are more responsive now than they were before? I mean, do you get that sense, or do you have any data behind this? Nods here, but Bharat, go ahead. Why are you confident that that's the case?
So from morning 10 a.m., I reached out to about 6 people. And these were people who had prior interviewed with us. And all 6 of them have responded back with a positive intent and have booked a pre-screen. And this hasn't happened at the peak of hiring. It's the same company. And these were, some of these people were at a stage, in interview stage, where because of the hiring suspension, we had to stop their process. And when we reached out back to them, they are still interested. And this time we are reaching out for roles or product domains. And for everyone, I hired product managers. And when I reached out for specific domains and with specific skills. And these people responded back in like 3 minutes. And that is the kind of response. And the positive intent, people are interested. They're like, okay, how soon can we start the process? I want to finish this as quickly as I can. And that is something that, again, is a bit surprising, but not too surprising as well.
Yeah, that's a really interesting signal, particularly if these people have been contacted before and you had to pause a recruiting process. I can imagine a lot of people who have been in that situation actually, potentially ignoring a secondary solicitation, because it's like, oh, how dare you put me on the shelf or whatever, Back in the day where there was an abundance mindset, you might actually have a very negative approach to that. But very interesting to know that they were open and, in fact, very, very responsive. Folks, if you're recruiting tech people today, what are you finding? Is your experience comport with what Bharat is kind of reporting here? Are you getting quick and enthusiastic response from your outreach to tech candidates? I'd love to hear your comments. Let me know. Matt, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of ironic that I'm talking as a recruiter from Meta here, because what we've noticed in our side of the house, so Tenables is a niche cybersecurity company. We're the best of what we do. We work in vulnerability management. Security engineers want our product. They need our product, but we don't really have a big profile. People don't really know in the grander tech SaaS space really who we are. You will do after this call, hopefully. But what we have today is I have ex-FANG, apologies for using the acronym, but I have ex-FANG engineers in all of my recs. And they're applying to our recs. 12 months ago, they wouldn't have needed to turn on or they would refuse to open their LinkedIn messaging services for fear of an absolute avalanche of messages from the likes of myself and my team. So those candidates are now openly applying to our recs. They're interested to come to work for us. And that's a huge change. And these are people who are rift, or maybe some who may potentially be rift in the future, or are concerned that they may be. So that's a definite shift. And besides the FANG candidates, there's an increased level of quality of candidate. Companies that we would have targeted in the past. So we like engineers from X, Y, and Z. Let's go after them. Again, they wouldn't talk to us because they were inundated with messages anyway. They're now openly applying to us either directly, they're in our recs, they're coming to us on LinkedIn. So it's been a complete role reversal. And we have that, but on top of that, we have the traditional candidates, just good engineers who are looking, but also we have the master's students who are in need of a full-time role, and their opportunities are greatly reduced. We just did an internship program for Ireland, France, and Israel for about 20 roles, and we had about 4,000 applicants. So there's the volume of traffic coming in is just, it's incomparable to what it was kind of at the peak of the hiring boom within COVID. So like it's good times in a way, but the flip side of that is that, and this is obviously a good thing, but it does give food for thought as well. Our time to hire has come down by about 25 to 30%.
Yeah.
So we're getting resources quicker, but a benefit of that, of the volume of candidate side, is that hiring managers who were in the past kind of had to meet 2 or 3 and just run, okay, who's the best available, go with it. They're meeting like 5 to 8 now. They're doing a 5-round first round second interview, a 3-round second interview, a 2-round third. They feel they have a matter of choice. So they're getting better educated on what talent's out there. They're getting more comfortable making hard decisions. So there's wins and losses all over the place for hiring managers, hiring companies, recruiters, but it still boils down to the fact that our workloads are between 25 and 40% less what they were 12 to 18 months ago. And if I try to look forward and plan, say, H2 or 2024, I'm not seeing how those volumes are going to spike again. I don't know what's going to be that driver for us to flip back to the kind of constant hiring mode that we would all be used to. And I think we're moving into more of a cyclical type hiring mode, whereby finance will give money to teams go hire, teams hire the people, teams embed them, they move on, and they come back again in 6-9 months again. So I think that's something I feel that we may be going into that space. But it's definitely the market itself is just it's polar opposite to what it was 12-18 months ago.
One thing I think that Matt just said, which is I want to just dwell on slightly, is he said that they previously at Tenable weren't hiring people from FANG companies, but now there's people from FANG companies that are actually actively applying. The concept of like an employer for life has been never been less relevant than it is today.
Yep, 100%. And like people need to look after themselves. People are concerned about where their next paycheck's going to come from. You do have a lot of candidates, maybe in the US, where their job is tied to their visa and they can't take the chance to wait for the RIF. I don't know if anybody saw the news in Canada, whereby Canada swooping in for all of the H-1Bs. Now I think those candidates will get a shock when they see the salaries in Toronto versus the salaries in Silicon Valley. It's less than half, I would imagine. But these people are in an awful situation. You move or you go home, and the money they've spent to get themselves where they are, the effort they've gone through, they don't want to go home. So you really have to, and I don't blame them for looking after themselves and putting themselves first. So you're right, Adam, that the concept of job for life, or that side of longevity employer, you can really see it moving out of the market on the candidate side.
What's also true as well on this is that I think prior to this period of obviously financial retrenchment, the FANG candidates probably had sort of considered themselves only thinking about a very, very small number of companies that they would potentially work for. Because it's very difficult to compete with Facebook. Maybe only Google could do that. And if it's not Google, then maybe only Amazon could do that. If not that, maybe only Apple could do that. But now it looks like perhaps that branding has kind of been kind of broken in a way because of the size of the reduction of force that we've seen. And everyone is thinking, you know what, maybe it's not the only destination to be a part of. How does that complicate your recruitment work, Bharat? I mean, do you now need to sell Meta a bit harder, or is it still got a huge cachet given, you know, what the company is? You know, it is obviously a game-changing business with lots of innovation, lots of brains, and of course, still lots of financial firepower. I should imagine the compact Meta is still probably market leading, regardless of what sort of whatever retrenchment has occurred.
So the obvious questions will come with respect to, okay, you just let go of people. Why are you hiring again? All of those, which can be answered. We've been very vocal about where we have let go of people and what we are trying to going forward. The quarterly results kind of speaks every day the same language. And now that we are big on AI, everybody knows about that. So when we go back and say, hey, we are looking for someone with machine learning, artificial intelligence experience, they understand, okay, this is a company priority. So this is not something that is a short-term gain or short-term product that they are trying to build. It is for the long term. It is for that the fundamental product that they want to build where money will come in. So this helps. Also, we can always say, hey, because of certain decisions, yes, we had to let go of people, but then we have added value to everyone. There is about 700% rise in the stock price. That is usually a good sign of the company growing, everybody trusting. So that helps. So, but you will always find people where they're not too convinced. We can only do so much.
No, I hear
but
what you're
it
saying.
is kind of going to be not that difficult when it comes to selling Meta as a product. Especially a couple of days back, we open sourced our generative AI model. When you're doing things like this, people want to work in those spaces.
Yeah, I think Meta's, in other words, what you're saying is the brand is still powerful. I think that's probably true with all of the FANG type companies. But what may be happening in the mindset of the engineers is that they're no longer exclusively thinking of that small group and investigating other businesses, maybe particularly businesses in sectors like yours, Matt, that, you know, they can see there's going to be, you know, a robust future going forward. Okay, folks, we're going to have to move on because we've got loads of people to bring on. Let's leave final question to Matt and Bharat on this. I'm a tech recruiter. I'm still recruiting for engineers. Is there anything I should be doing differently given what I've seen in the what you guys are seeing in the market right now? What should we be doing if I'm a tech recruiter today? Any thoughts on this, Matt? Go to you first.
Cross train. The standalone specialist in HR/recruiting it's not long for this world, for want of a better phrase. I think particularly if you're a small to medium sized company, you need to be upskilling in HR, you need to be upskilling in comp, you need to be upskilling in, you know, back office HR operations systems. You know, if all you do is tech recruiting, you need to put more armory in your tool belt. I've told all my team to do it. I've encouraged them all to go away and learn and upskill. We just can't be a singular type of recruiter anymore. The market will pass us out. I barely survived the 2008 recession because I had to stop being a banking recruiter because of the 12 banks in Ireland at the time. 9 of them are now gone. So it disappeared. So you have to be able to innovate. You have to be able to do other things.
Yeah, very interesting. Good, solid advice there from Matt. How about you, Bharat? What's your thoughts? A tech recruiter, what should they be doing?
Same thing along what Matt said. Learn new technologies and try and learn how you can implement that in your day-to-day life. And also, as a company, we are no longer restricted to just one particular role. Earlier, it was me hiring only for product managers. It no longer is the case. Now I hire everything under product as a vertical. That means content design, UX design, data science, product managers, product marketing, and a bunch of other things. So even if it's tech recruiting, it's a whole lot than what we were restricted to. So if you are not someone who can adopt to, okay, I only hire for product manager, so I don't know anything else, then you'll be left out.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Okay, Bharat, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful to see you both on screen.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers, appreciate it, guys.
Cool. Okay, folks, before we bring on our next guest, we always have to do this as part of our sort of process, which is, by the way, we always want to make sure that everybody in Brainfood who is watching this show gets the opportunity to continue the conversation, even though we have to come off air, which we need to do so in 20 minutes. Today, what we want you to do is to take a moment, get your LinkedIn URL and share it in the chat stream if you're watching it on Crowdcast. If you're watching this anywhere on LinkedIn, as I'm sure several hundred of you are, take your URL and stick it into the comment thread wherever you are watching it, whether you're watching on my sort of channels or in Juliana Parks, and Juliana is also broadcasting this. Rob Walker usually does as well. So if you're watching it on Rob's sort of channel, just share a link into the comment thread and then just connect with everyone who's on, who you see doing that. Worst case scenario, you walk away with 50 extra connections that care about this topic. They're all going to help you in this market that we have and we're confronting. Okay, we're going to bring on a couple more recruiters now, this time a little bit more from the RPO and agency side, also tech recruiters. We've heard from in-house recruiters on their side. What are they seeing? What are third-party recruiters seeing? Let's bring on our guest. Adam, you want to say something?
Nope.
You didn't? Okay, great.
Nope.
Okay, Ash and Tatev, we have the same problem. Can you quickly comment into the chat thread so I can find you, and then I'll bring you on once I can ID you, because I can't see you on the thing here. Ash is there, great. Invite main stage. Tatev is there as well, great. Okay. Too many people have commenting now. I can't bring them on. I might accidentally bring Lee Candiotti on, which would be a disaster for both.
That would be great.
It would be a disaster. Perfect. It would be a disaster for both and Lee because he's refused many, many times. But he might accidentally say yes to it.
Just do it. You gotta just keep inviting him.
One of these days, Lee, we're gonna get you on, mate. One of these days. There she is. Ash, how you doing? Hey. Wonderful to see you. I like your hair, by the way. It's a lot longer since the last time I saw you. I think it's sushi.
Yeah, I need to go to a hairdresser soon.
No. I think it's great. It seems to grow bigger and out. That gives drama, you know. This is good. Okay, we have Tatev as well. Great to see you.
Hey.
And of course, Ash and Tatev, you know each other really well. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do some quick intros. Ash, can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Sure. I'm a senior tech recruiter. I'm with Level Up Ventures. We are in Amsterdam, hiring throughout Europe, but mainly focusing on Netherlands. And, yeah, that's me.
Fantastic. Tatev, would you like to introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do? Did she hear me okay?
Yeah, sure. I'm Tatev, a tech recruiter, and eventually the CEO of Mittel. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, it's a little bit choppy, but I think it's okay. Go ahead.
I heard Tatev say that she's the CEO of Meta.
No.
I think I had it. Yeah. No, not the Meta. No, the Mittel. It's a tech recruitment agency in Armenia. We operate in Armenia, Europe, and US.
Yeah, that's right. And both these guys used to work together, by the way. But Mito, obviously, and I want to get the view from sort of the recruitment agency stroke up your side. We heard from Matt, we heard from Bharat. They've got the inside view. I think it's very, very interesting. However, they're not the only people that recruit for tech people. And what is the reaction to advertisements placed by recruitment agencies, for instance? Are candidates speaking to third-party recruiters these days? What are your thoughts? Let's go to you first, Ash. When you're posting an advert, are you getting inundated with responses? What are you getting? What's your feeling?
I think the picture is quite similar because we're seeing a lot of applicants and qualified ones as well. Even for the executive roles, you get it hurts my heart to reject the candidates that are qualified. And a couple of months ago, I will be just hoping for those kind of candidates to reply as a passive candidate, but now they are just replying on their own, and there is so much choice. But something that I've noticed, and I think I've heard that from a lot of other consulting recruiters, is that the number of roles overall in the market is just going down. So the roles recs out there, it's just less than it used to be before this year. Yeah, that's what I see with the advertisements.
Okay, that's really interesting. So again, basically the quality of candidates is very high. And Adam, I know what you're thinking on this in terms of talent pipelining and you know, talent pooling and so on. Here's a huge opportunity for companies that, you know, have some sort of capacity or system to do that. Because right now we have a load of candidates that essentially are active and interested in having conversations with recruiters. And this seems to be like quite an episodic moment. It's a moment in, you know, it's a rare moment in the decade, so to speak. So now is the time where you can go ahead and grab those folks. So Tatev, I think you're struggling to get on. I think you've just gone dark on us, and it may well be we're going to have to lose you. Yep, we've lost Tatev. I'm sorry to say. Okay, Ash, you're going to have to just deal with it yourself. That's okay. But the volume of roles out there is low. I think that's interesting from agency side, because agents are going to know that, because obviously you're doing BD, you're doing business development. What is happening on the BD side?
Yeah, it's what we are noticing is that it takes basically a bit longer to close the cases. And I'm seeing this on the recruitment side as well. Hiring managers are seeking more reassurance, extra stage, and extra conversation before they are ready to invest into the hiring. It seems like it just become more weighted to invest even on one FTE, which is a bit surprising. But I see it's going to change a bit on the short term. So yeah, I do agree that it's a unique moment that we need to grasp and pipeline those candidates so that we have access and build the relationship before it's too late.
I've just thought about a Brainfood Live topic, which I really think is a good idea. Like, how do you have conversations with great candidates where you don't have an immediate opportunity? What is the sort of conversations you can have with that person in order for that relationship to be built? Because, you know, those people may be in a stressful situation. They may sort of be, you know, have urgency in the job search. You may not have an option to give them right now, but what can you give them to support them in such a way that they actually would be very, very welcoming to future interaction with you?
First thing is, of course, empathy. Like a lot of people that are getting laid off or they are looking for a new role and it takes months and months to get a new one. It's a stressful job out there. So it's first thing you do is just to feel their pain and talk about that. And I'd say that if you asked this a couple of months ago, I'd say that I will talk with everyone, but now it's just not the case. You don't have the luxury of talking to everyone on the call. You just pick the people that you are most probable to have roles for in the future, and you jump into a call. Do you explore what exactly is that they're looking for? And then you just stay in touch. But of course, empathy is a big part of it. So to feel their pain.
Yeah, I think so. Just show a bit of human touch. We had this conversation in a Brainfood Live a couple of months ago when we talked about the psychological impact of being made redundant. In that case, we were talking specifically about recruiters, but some really interesting insights emerged from that. And of course, that applies to anybody who is currently involuntarily a job seeker. So
not just at all, I'd say.
Yeah, it's difficult. No matter how bravado or confident you might be, it's very hard when your company that you've worked really hard for has said, listen, we're going to have to let you go. I mean, that's a rejection. That's a deep rejection. It's very painful. Tatev, I think we're back and it looks pretty solid. So let's try again.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Let's do that.
What are your thoughts on the BD side of things? In terms of the volume of requisitions you're getting, is there any sectors that are particularly low or lower than they were? Any sectors within tech that seem to be a little bit more robust?
I will agree with Aj that it was hard on the part of the BD, because right now when the companies are paying you to find a candidate, they are expecting you to do an exceptional job. Like they are expecting you to give them the candidate that doesn't exist in the market sometimes. And when I was like doing a helicopter view, I was first on in the beginning of 2023. I was thinking that we don't have any roles to work on, but when I was doing a helicopter view, I just understood that we do have the positions to work on. We just don't have the serial positions we used to work on, because the bigger companies, they stopped, they did the hiring freeze thing. And right now we have positions that are like exceptional, or the companies were giving us the position they had hard times to fill in. So our metrics of recruitments have changed drastically. I've been trying to like put on my fingers on the pulse to like do data-driven recruitment. And it was so hard because we had a case when we closed the position of a VP of engineering within like 16 days, which is crazy, right? And we had a position that we closed within 9 months. We literally were pregnant with this position. So yeah, so things have changed a lot, and companies' expectations have changed a lot when they give the roles to the recruitment agency.
Okay, that's a really interesting insight here. So potentially the KPIs, the measures of what we thought were good, we need to review all of those because we're in a different marketplace now. And what was potentially, 12 months, 18 months or so ago, what was a reasonable time to fill number, that may not be the right number anymore, because let's say there's more candidates, they should be easier to fill. For instance, the 16-day close that you mentioned, and also both Bharat and Matt beforehand were saying, look, we're doing it quicker because there's more candidates. I think, Ash, you mentioned that the hiring managers were also keen to maybe put additional stages in. So they're actually, even though time to fill is quicker, there's actually more stages because the hiring managers feel there's more choice. Perhaps they no longer feel as pressured to make rush decisions, which I knew they were before. I remember the best practice advice we were giving 18 months or so ago is like, look, don't wait for candidate number 2. If you saw a candidate that was good enough, you got to go ahead and hire this person, take them off the market. You can't be waiting. Let's see some other people. But now I guess the hiring manager is saying, listen, we need to see more. So we need to, as a reporting function, basically we need to review it, because there's no point in reporting back the numbers and saying this is how it is, because the numbers mean different things in a marketplace like this, and that's got to be very very clearly recognized.
So basically, time to fill is going lower. You have less days as a benchmark and as an average as well. But also, I see that applicants per role is going higher, as I mentioned. But something that I was thinking about this topic and reviewing the last year, basically, I noticed that it is not becoming easier to find the scarce talent. Like, if you are looking for a really exceptional engineer, it's still a competitive market. When it comes to the offer stage, they still have a counter offer. They still have other offers on the table. I wouldn't say the offer acceptance rates are insanely better. It's maybe the same, I'd say.
Very, very interesting. So the super in-demand candidates will always be super in demand. I remember having a conversation with on another panel, and the guy said, that for that elite talent, there never is a recession because they're always in demand no matter what the situation. I think all of us can agree that is the case. So maybe the number, don't be too disappointed, I guess, if the offer acceptance rate isn't necessarily higher, because that person is attractive to others, and they're gonna have options, basically. Very interesting.
On that, Hung, I don't think there's ever been a more important time for people to deeply consider what skills they've got to go and develop, because we are losing the demand for lots of skills very fast as technology is taking over what people do, whereas we are also in real scarcity for, as Ash just said, for certain jobs where there are not nearly enough people to do them. And I think the decisions that people make when they're 16 years old or 21 years old or whenever they leave education have never been more important.
Yeah.
I'd say also the ongoing self-development, it's never been more important because
Agreed.
it's moving too fast.
Agreed.
Well, as we move on to the question, let's talk about this because we've got to move on to get Sam back on. Any advice for agency recruiters? What should they be doing for their own? Firstly, two questions: what should they be doing for their own businesses in terms of optimizing the current situation, and what should they be doing for themselves to make sure their careers are rock solid? You go first, Tatev.
In case of self-education, I think it's a good time to build some relationships because we have some free time and more free time than we had the last year. And it's always good to build relationships with potential candidates because when things get better, I believe that the situation is not forever. And when things get better, I think those connections will be useful to hire them in different companies. As for the personal part, I think hang on there, recruiters. Try to survive because I know it's hard for agency recruiters to stay in the line. And I think that's it.
Yeah, it's almost like having the confidence to do that relationship building, even though there seems to obviously there's massive pressure for agency recruiters to always have deals coming in. We've got to get mentally strong with that. Okay, Ash, how about you? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think those are channeled into one. I'd say for personal and company consulting side, I'd really recommend investing time, not necessarily money, by the way, but time into your toolbox. It's not only getting onto the next shiny AI tool, but it's also revamping how you do pipeline. How, for example, now we are updating how we keep the candidates in the CRM, in the ATS of ours, and it's really, and we are saving in the meantime, which is a fun effect, right? We are changing, we are making better our toolbox, and we are saving in the meantime. So my advice is to invest time into the toolbox of personally yours and also your companies.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Thank you, Ash. Thank you, Tatev. Appreciate you spending some time with us. Wonderful to see you both.
Good to see you. Bye.
Very interesting. Okay, we have to bring Sam back on. Someone wants to come on stage. Who's this? Is it Lee? Is it Lee Candiotti? No, it's not. Whoever it was, there he is. It's Sam. There he is. We bring him back on. One of these days, Lee. All right. Let's see what Sam's got to say. It's been really interesting hearing from all of those recruiters. I think that gives us a little bit of sense as to what is going on outside. I think all of us kind of feel it ourselves, but it's useful to get different testimonies in to figure this out. But Sam, you've got some data for us. Do you want to just give us the overview? Like how many developers, firstly, are you talking about? What's the data set size? And can you give us some commentary on what you found?
Yeah, I think when I'm looking at this, I dial back to where Adam was saying at the start, this kind of superstar city piece. So in 2021, 47% of placements were made in London. In 2022, 41%. In 2023, we're down to 31%. And we've moved from 57 locations to 84 to 117. So I think that is a really tangible long-term change in the way in which, organizations
Stop. This is amazing data. So you're saying that on your platform, we had an excessive number of placements on superstar cities like London, for instance, but that has progressively trended down to the point now where there are many, many more placements in different cities. And London's share of placements has gone from what number to what number?
47 to 31 in the last year and a half.
That is interesting data, folks. I mean, that tells you a lot about employer branding, about where the job needs to go. Previously, if you weren't in London or you weren't in a big city, you weren't interested. Now it looks like you can put the job in different places and it can still work for you. So super interesting. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, the other thing, if you look at like the secondary hub in the UK in Manchester, 12%, 10%, 9%. So, not as drastic a shift as London, but still, pretty significant changes. So, that's one thing which I really wanted to touch on. I think the other part is this concept. I really like how Barrett framed, the redundancies which were going on in big tech. I'd always say, go and have a look at big tech share price. My favorite index for, big tech and what's going to come in the future, I think is going to be a different set of roles, right? We've had organizations go through digital transformations. We've had organizations move through that from, traditional businesses through to tech businesses. I think the next phase is going to be tech businesses through to AI, ML, led organizations. I think that's going to be the next big shift. So where that talent then sits, we see a lot of enterprise organizations that are still going through that transformation that are actually focusing on having evergreen roles. So we're saying there's less jobs that are posted. But I know of, jobs on our platform that's a mid-level software engineer that might have 100 requisitions behind it, where they're building and they're always on hiring because they know they're going to need back-end, front-end, cloud, etc. So I think that's another shift. I think the other part of that, of course, we're seeing a higher volume of applications. That's not just in tech roles, though. And part of that is driven by the market. Part of it is driven by the major players in this space. LinkedIn, Indeed, Total Jobs, they are focused on getting people to apply, right? Their methodology, their commercial model is to drive applications. So I think that compounds it as well. So really, kind of interesting on that point. And appreciate we're at time. I had a few bits and pieces to share. I think one thing on interview process, we're talking about hiring managers being a little bit more choosy. I think the entrance into that process from the technical screening stage through to final, we are seeing a change. But overall, people are still acting really quickly. So the most common across all roles on HackerJob, UK, US, interview process is screening call, tech test or technical interview, and a final interview, which is pair programming, typically of varying lengths with values and behaviors. So 3-stage process is still the most common. I can't see that changing because, as some of the people were talking about before, like competition for top tier talent, even though there is a slight increase in the availability, it's still fierce, right? It's still fierce. And when you think about ML AI roles, that's jumped 15 places in terms of its prevalence in terms of the top roles recruited on HackerJob. And that's only going to keep going. And if you grouped all data roles together and the analysis that then sits alongside that, that's number one.
Yeah, so very interesting. I mean, I think the procedure is interesting, isn't it, folks? The standard that most companies are using is the 3-step process. The very quick, I wouldn't say quick screen, but it's one of those like confirm, are you interested type of conversations. Then straight into a tech test. So presumably this will be on some sort of tech testing platform, or maybe we're still doing kind of take home tests or whatnot if people aren't afraid of ChatGPTs and whatever. And then it's in person to retest it again. Okay, let's actually get down and program together with someone, another human being. Then we can really test the chops of the person. So, okay, very interesting.
Yeah. And then I think the other kind of stat which just talks to the market at the moment, and it's, I think everybody was talking about that response rates piece. That's one thing that we have seen. So we've got an 82% response rate in 2022. That's now 93% response rate on the platform. So people are more willing to have a conversation. I think I popped in the chat, or I might not have done, when people are talking about offer acceptance, it's still not changing that latter stage. Right. I think people have maybe got less offers than they had before, less interest than they had before, but this is still a talent short market, right? It's still competitive, and particularly in, the pronounced areas of data, cyber, any kind of CRM implementation, agents, that is a fiercely competitive market still. So probably less requests per candidate, less interactions, less job offers than they might have had before at its absolute peak, but still fiercely competitive, and that's kind of where it is.
How interesting is that? So it's interesting, this correlation between, I think what Ash mentioned, that intuitively there didn't seem to be any change in terms of offer acceptance, and that's confirmed at your end, Sam. Sam, this is super interesting. You guys publish any of this, or have you just like script out the system yourself?
Yeah,
for the show?
I scraped out. You threw me a few bullets, Hung. I scraped a few bits and pieces out. We've definitely got info that we can share. I think on a customer basis, we make it very relatable to each individual organization. And then as part of that, the E&I suite, which I posted earlier, is actually then that employer benchmarking. You know, how do you perform in different underrepresented groups? How do they see you as an employer? What do they see as the benefits, etc.? So aggregating that sort of data, making that a lot more visible. Yeah, certainly the path that we're going. Our latest salary report will be out at the end of this month, so next week. And early views on that. Salaries are still increasing, but we're not talking, 20, 30% as it was in some areas, 18 months ago. Still faster than other public sector areas and other jobs, but not quite as meteoric as it was.
Yeah, and by the way, Adam, I'll let you say something in a bit. But if people, I don't want to put any pressure on Daisy and her team. But are we interested in Hacker Jobs producing more content based on this data? Yes, no. Let me know in the chat. Let's put some pressure on now because we want to see this stuff. It's really important. Adam, you're about to say something? No. That's okay. That's fine. Okay, I think we have to close the end of the show. So Sam, thank you so much for your time. Wonderful to see you. I think everyone's going to be interested in the salary report as well. I don't know whether they can early register for that or whether there's any wait list, but if there is, why don't you stick a link into the chat stream so that people can go and take a look at that. We're over time, everyone, so thanks for watching. We'll be back, I think, next week, same time, Friday, 2 p.m. We're going to be talking about fully automated hiring. What does all that mean? It basically means, can we take the human out of the process? This is a thought experiment that we're going to conduct with Stan Vasovich. So this is not something we're recommending. We're just trying to test the edges of what is possible so that we can get a glimpse of what that future might look like. So Stan's actually prepared a presentation for us. He's going to roll through it. I might bring a few other people on board as well who've got opinions to be made that they want to make on sort of whether a fully automated process is possible, and then we'll talk later whether it is in fact desirable. Anyway, that's about it. Sam, wonderful to see you on the show. You have a very good weekend. Adam, great to see you as well. You have a very good weekend, sir. And I think everyone else, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Cool. See you later, Raz.
Bye.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
Did I stop? Yeah, that stopped recording. Yes, it has. Am I finished with live and broadcast? Let's just stop the broadcast.